Part 13. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 121. A flash of realization flashed through his mind. Interesting, this person seems to have some kind of cause and effect with the master. Destiny. Destiny. Or fate. No matter which one, it doesn't seem to be a good direction. The obstacles must be removed. Xuanhuan didn't pay much attention to Lin Yi. He came here today to prepare for what was to come. There was a hint of coldness in his eyes, and he made a decision in his heart. About 10 minutes later, Brandy came over with a black pepper steak set meal. Guest, please use your black pepper steak set slowly. He gently placed the entire set of dinner plates on the dining table in front of Xuanhuan. Xuanhuan smiled slightly and nodded, "Thank you." At this time, Brandy turned on the TV in the lobby and started playing the evening news. In the hall, the sound of Xuanhuan cutting steak could be heard. Accompanied by the faint sounds of chewing and admiration, there was also the sound of the evening news. At 5 o'clock this afternoon, a suicide by jumping from a building occurred near the Temple of Wealth. The deceased was an 18-year-old girl. Witnesses said that when the deceased jumped from the building, a figure flashed beside him. The police are currently investigating and verifying the specific situation and will report later. Brandy watched the news behind the bar and shook his head. "I don't know what's going on lately. People seem to be dying every day. It's really scary." Hearing this, Xuanhuan had a weird smile on his lips. This is just the beginning. The world will become more and more difficult in the future. Lin Yi's heart moved when he heard Xuanhuan speak. This guest seems to know something. Xuanhuan looked back at Lin Yi and narrowed his eyes slightly. In his eyes, an undetectable light flashed away. "Have you reached the point where the human immortal path condenses the spirit pool? This is an opportunity, and it just so happens." A thought came to mind, and Xuanhuan looked at Lin Yi. "I don't know much, but the world has changed, and the various legends and myths may not be groundless. Do you think there will be any changes in this world? 100 ghosts walk at night, demons are everywhere, and chaos in the world is probably inevitable." Lin Yi nodded when he heard this. This is true. Various incidents of resentful souls have been appearing recently. It's really disturbing. Jingle. Xuanhuan put down the knife and fork in his hand and looked at Brandy. "It tastes good. Your craftsmanship is really great." Brandy laughed. "Our store is all made with real ingredients, so they are naturally delicious." At this time, Xuanhuan put down a banknote on the table. "No need to look for it, thank you for the hospitality." He stood up and walked towards the door of Wanchaiwu, and he reached the door in a few steps. At this time, he stopped for a moment, turned his head and glanced at Lin Yi, taking his appearance into his eyes. At the same time, a seal in his right hand trembled, and a mysterious wave merged into the air. Xuanhuan's voice sounded, "Sir, everything in this world has its fate, and rash intervention will always lead to disaster. Looking at the blackness between your brows, you have committed many taboos, so be happy for yourself." Lin Yi looked at Xuanhuan in front of him and frowned. He could instinctively feel a faint malice lingering on this man. And it seemed that the other party had done something, but he couldn't be sure what happened. "Really? It's a pity that I never believe in fate, only myself." Xuanhuan smiled faintly and seemed not to care about Lin Yi's answer. "Good luck to you then." As he said this, Xuanhuan opened the door and left, feeling free and easy, elegant and natural, with an air of chicness filling the air. But he did not see that at this time, the green light in Lin Yi's eyes was operating to the extreme. Locking him completely, the traces of all the power in his body turned into countless messages. The information was like a torrent, rushing into Lin Yi's interpretation of his true destiny. Lin Yi kept looking at his back for a full minute, until Xuanhuan entered another street at the corner of the street. It ended after disappearing from Lin Yi's gaze. Xuanhuan himself had no warning signs, nor did he notice anything unusual. At this time, he came to another street and slipped out a black mirror in his hand. He took out the mirror, placed it in front of himself, and looked into the mirror. He raised his right hand and formed a seal. A black light shone out of his left eye. The black light shone on the mirror and turned into a figure. Looking carefully, it seemed to be Lin Yi. At the same time, an inexplicable aura floated out of the seal on his right hand and blended into the figure on the mirror. Then something amazing happened. The figure in the mirror became solid, just like a real person looking into the mirror. A smile appeared on the corner of Xuanhuan's mouth. After taking a shadow, the next step is to cast the spell. But this person is at the juncture of condensing the spirit pool. As long as he prepares, he can get twice the result with half the effort. With a smile, Xuanhuan put away the mirror and disappeared into the distance of the street. In the everything room, Lin Yi looked a little pale at this time and his head was dizzy. Just now, he used the true life principle to observe Xuanhuan with all his strength and captured all the changes in the opponent's body. Even the thickness of the meridians in the opponent's body and the composition of the body's bones can be seen clearly. The huge amount of information rushed into the true interpretation of life, and was transformed into his spiritual consciousness. The influx of information gave him a huge impact, not only the pain from the information flooding into his brain, also accompanied by a feeling of weakness due to the exhaustion of the power of the Yiling Jing. At this time, Brandy was preparing to clean up the dishes that Xuanhuan had just used. Noticing Lin Yi's expression, his expression changed drastically. "Manager, what's wrong with you?" Lin Yi closed his eyes, heard Brandy's voice, and uttered two words, "Close the store." Brandy nodded immediately after hearing this, locked the door, and hung up the closed sign. At the same time, he pulled down the blinds on the floor-to-ceiling windows. The hall suddenly became quiet, and it took Lin Yi 10 minutes to catch his breath. "Huh, good guy, this is the first time I've encountered this situation." Lin Yi was still frightened, and the impact of countless information just now made him feel that his brain almost collapsed. It seems that the true destiny solution cannot be operated to the limit casually, it's too dangerous. In 1 minute, almost all the information in that person's body was captured. Although 90% of it is useless information, the remaining 10% is really amazing. Lin Yi's eyes flashed with a trace of amazement. In just 60 seconds, Zhenming Daija captured the root of the other person's internal energy flow. There are also various information about the meridians and the strength of the body. After the transformation of this information by Zhenming Daija, he actually got a complete practice. Even the operation and stimulation methods of the meridians and acupoints were restored. New book subscription. Hope everyone supports TNG. Writing a book is not easy, support is the motivation. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 122. The cultivation method of the immortal way is not the cultivation method of the mortal way. Among them, the circulation of the meridians of the human body has almost reached an extreme. Each kind has been tempered and refined by the wisdom of countless beings. Otherwise, it would not have finally condensed into a mysterious energy organ like the spirit pool. And this time, when Lin Yi saw Xuanhuan, he discovered the abnormality and malice of the other party. He immediately spied on the other party's information. And the result was also very surprising, a brand new method. Even in terms of complexity, the cultivation method is not inferior to the great power Vajraseal method. At this time, Brandy looked at Lin Yi with concern. "Manager, how are you?" Lin Yi had recovered his breath at this time, took a deep breath and said, "It's okay, you don't have to worry. That's it for today, you should go and rest." Brandy nodded. "Okay, manager, take care of yourself." "Okay, go and rest, I'll be fine." Watching Brandy disappear, Lin Yi got up and returned to his room. He came to the bookshelf and took out a blank notebook. This time he needed to record the skills he spied on. He had a hunch that the skills he spied on in the future would bring him great benefits. Back to the desk, beautiful Chinese characters flowed out of his pen. One after another, exquisite human body patterns were drawn, and they were described in detail according to the information transmitted by the True Destiny Daoji. It took Lin Yi about an hour to complete this mysterious human immortal Dao skills. This skill mainly cultivates a kind of pure feminine essence, pure and dark. So it was named Xianyin Jing by Lin Yi. After writing the scripture, Lin Yi's heart moved. Give it a try. Maybe it will help me break through the realm. Thinking of this, Lin Yi closed the notebook and stood up from the chair. He walked a few steps to the empty space in the bedroom, and the power of the True Destiny Daoji bloomed in his eyes. The next moment, all the essence in the body began to operate along the root of the Xianyin Jing. The green light of the Yiling Jing enveloped Lin Yi at this time. Countless Delevage raw seal essences turned into a deep and dark force under the influence of the green light and the operation root of the Xianyin Jing. Originally, when Lin Yi performed the Delevage raw seal, the whole person was like a Buddha, an immortal god, giving people a positive image. But at this time, a dark yin aura permeated his body, and the same source of infinite energy in the air around him gathered towards him. It made his surroundings gloomy and cold, and even his skin turned black and transparent. Like a god of death in the underworld, it brought people incomparable coldness. At this time, Lin Yi's body was aching slightly, and a severe discomfort was occurring. He immediately knew that this was the pressure brought to his body by the transformation of the skills. This pressure will cause a certain degree of burden and damage to the body. The more frequent and powerful the transformation of skills, the heavier the burden will be. Faintly, he felt a faint smell of blood in his mouth, and countless tiny capillaries in his body were damaged. Lin Yi narrowed his eyes. The power of the True Destiny Daoji is really mysterious. It can actually allow me to change the cultivation method in an instant. However, my body has been nourished by the great power Vajrasil method. After it is converted into the Xianyin Sutra, there will be a conflict between the essence and the body. Because the body is nourished by other exercises, this cannot be changed in a short time. There is no solution, which greatly limits the practicality of changing exercises. Lin Yi shook his head slightly. Although he has mastered the advantages and disadvantages of changing exercises at will. The advantages are obvious, and it can cope with a variety of situations, making people never know his details. The disadvantage is that it will cause severe damage to the body, which is an unsolvable problem. He did not maintain the Xianyin Sutra for too long. Every moment, this exercise is causing slight damage to his body. After observing himself through the True Destiny Daoji, Lin Yi found that the reason was very simple. The body nourished by the great power Vajrasil method constantly conflicts with the Xianyin Sutra. It seemed that the Xuanhuan Sutra wanted to remove all traces of the great power Vajrasil in his body. The transformation of the skills can only be used at special moments. The skills were transformed back again, and the essence of the great power Vajrasil flowed throughout the body, and the feeling of disharmony quickly disappeared. The countless small parts of the body that were damaged were being repaired quickly. At this time, Lin Yi continued to observe himself, and the quality of the essence did not change because of the transformation of the skills. Is the body the only thing that is affected? What is the origin of the Yiling Sutra? This True Destiny solution can be called a terrifying innate ability. Lin Yi shook his head, turned over and sat on his bed, and began to practice tonight. 3 days passed in a blink of an eye. It has been so many days since the incident of Xingyuezi, and nothing strange has happened. Lin Yi also relaxed a little vigilance. Nothing happened for so many days, it seems that I thought too much. That person should really just come here to eat by chance, although he has some malicious intent. The peaceful life, Lin Yi is very comfortable. Every day, I read newspapers, read news, watch soap operas, and enjoy delicious food to satisfy my appetite. When the time comes, I practice my two skills. I keep doing my daily exercises and quietly wait for the final breakthrough. It was night soon, and the Wanchaiwa closed early. The serial murders and suicides that occurred again in the past 3 days made the nights of Honglian City much quieter. Sitting cross-legged on his bed, Lin Yi suddenly felt countless essences beating in his dantian. The resonance with the outside world became more and more intense, as if it was roaring in his ears like a drum. The spirit pool is restless, and the drums are like thunder. This is a sign of condensation. Tonight is the time for me to break through the human immortal path. At this time, in a dilapidated courtyard in the west city of Honglian City, Xingyuezi, who was practicing, suddenly opened his eyes. There was an altar in front of him, and changes appeared in the dark mirror on the altar. Lin Yi's shadow appeared with a golden light, and the whole person looked like a god. Looking at the changes in Lin Yi in the mirror, Xingyuezi smiled slightly. It's time. You ruined my master's plan, but I want you to pay with your life. It shows the majesty of my section. It's your bad luck that you are at the key point of the spirit pool. This is convenient for me. Xingyuezi sat cross-legged on the futon, and pinched out a seal in his hand, the seal of communication with the gods. He was muttering something in his mouth, but it was a strange spell. For a while, the wind in the courtyard was gusty, and it seemed that there was a wailing sound echoing between the looming. After chanting the spell for a while, Xingyuezi opened his eyes again and jumped up from the futon. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 123. He grasped the peachwood sword on the altar with his hand, and dipped his left index finger into a bowl of dark liquid on the altar. Then he kept drawing strange runes on the peachwood sword with his left hand. After a few breaths, the peachwood sword was covered with strange black runes. At this time, he waved the peachwood sword and picked up a yellow cinnabar talisman paper from the altar. There was a strange talisman on the talisman paper, and a gloomy aura rushed towards him, and the yin energy around him seemed to be attracted. Xingyuezi's figure was like a phantom, constantly waving the peachwood sword in front of the altar, muttering something in his mouth, chanting strange spells. The yin energy was all over his body, and inexplicable things were attracted in the surrounding void and gathered on the talisman paper with the tip of the peachwood sword. He performed a ritual under the altar for a while, and stabbed the mirror on the altar with a sword. The peachwood sword seemed to have no form, and it pierced directly into the mirror, at the center of Lin Yi's eyebrows, who was covered in golden light. He only heard him chant a spell. 3 yin soul-destroying spell, the heaven, earth, and people are all destroyed. The talisman paper on the tip of the sword ignited without wind, and turned into a black and inexplicable shadow, and pounced on Lin Yi's shadow in the mirror. The shadow swallowed Lin Yi's shadow into its stomach, and then flew out of the mirror. The shadow soared into the air and flew towards the direction of Lin Yi's Wanchaiwu. Xingyuezi jumped and sat back on his futon. He made a seal with his hands, and kept repeating the spell. He cast a Taoist spell, soul-destroying spell. This spell requires opening an altar and collecting 3 extremely yin and evil things before it can be cast. Once cast, the person who is cursed will be attacked by the curse power. If there is no means to deal with the attack on the soul, it is almost certain that the soul will be destroyed and die. An extremely vicious method, and those who are hit are helpless. After using this method, the caster needs to keep chanting the spell to maintain the effect of the spell. At this time, Lin Yi didn't know all this, he was in the final sprint. There were drastic changes in his body, and countless essences were pouring in at the dantian position. The golden energy from the outside world entered his body through the top of his head. Lin Yi needed to control the flow of essence and quickly convert the energy pouring in from the outside into essence. And in order to ensure the strength of his spirit pool, he tried his best to control the transformation of essence. Every bit of energy pouring in was first converted into essence through transportation, and then converted into perfect essence particles through the method of ratio assimilation. Originally, ordinary energy resonance condensed the spirit pool, and at this step, it was to release the restrictions and frantically absorb external energy to condense the spirit pool. But Lin Yi had an extra step, which slowed down the condensation of the essence in his danshan. This is a very dangerous move, according to the conclusion of the imperial research. At the critical moment of condensing the spirit pool, it is necessary to ensure that a large amount of essence is integrated. Otherwise, if the essence is not enough, the condensed spirit pool may collapse due to insufficient essence. It may even lead to obsession and everything will be in vain. In order to ensure the sufficiency and quality of essence, Lin Yi mobilized his spirit to the extreme. At this time, half an hour had passed and his spirit was very tired. Inside the danshan, a huge golden sphere was rotating like a nebula. During each rotation, a trace of essence would be thrown out and then sucked in. This sphere was not stable and was in a state that it could collapse at any time. This was the prototype of the spirit pool. When it was completely stable, it was the time when the spirit pool was truly formed. Lin Yi also had to spend part of his spirit to try his best to stabilize the rotating prototype of the spirit pool. In the meridians connected to the danshan, a trace of imperfect essence continued to flow in. After these essences entered, they would be instantly drawn into the prototype of the spirit pool. Lin Yi always controlled the influx speed of essence and the ratio of perfect essence to imperfect essence in the prototype of the spirit pool. He was adjusting every moment, dancing on the edge of a knife. Any slight mistake would result in death. At this time, he had already run the Yiling Jing, and exerted a certain influence on the de Ra seal method through the Yiling Jing. The green light enveloped him and even poured into his danshan. The power of the Yiling Jing is very mysterious. It is actually not energy, nor is it matter, but a power beyond Lin Yi's understanding. It has many mysterious characteristics, one of which is the stability of the practice. Lin Yi practiced the De Ra Sutra from the beginning to the top of the realm, and the Yiling Jing played an important role. It can help Lin Yi stabilize the circulation of essence and energy and not go astray. This time, the Yiling Jing also played a role in condensing the spirit pool, allowing the spirit pool to maintain a stability beyond common sense. In the prototype of the spirit pool, a little bit of mysterious structure is automatically appearing. Although the speed is very slow, it is unwavering. Lin Yi fell into a critical moment. In the bedroom, 4 figures have been guarding here and surrounded him. Anyone who wants to hurt Lin Yi must go past them. Lin Yi will not be careless at the critical moment of breaking through the spirit pool. But even with this preparation, danger still came. An inexplicable shadow came from outside the Wanqi house. It has no shape, no matter what material can stop it, even space can't block its existence. It passed through the lobby, the corridor, and the wall, and rushed directly into Lin Yi's bedroom. The inexplicable existence, without any energy fluctuations, even the 4 strange existences did not notice its arrival. In a flash, it had rushed into Lin Yi's body. At the same time, Lin Yi felt a shock in his heart, and a huge danger enveloped him. Instinctively, his consciousness was pulled into the space of the mind, the world of consciousness. A strange shadow appeared in Lin Yi's eyes, and the other party was still thousands of meters away from him at this time. However, this is an impression of the external world in the conscious mind. When Lin Yi saw this strange shadow, a chill came to his heart, and he felt a shadow of death shrouding him. What is this? Countless questions arose in his mind, but there was no time for him to think at this time. This strange shadow had already pounced on him, at an astonishing speed of 100 meters per second. At this time, Lin Yi noticed the situation where he was, which was hazy everywhere and covered with grey mist. Two balls of green light flashed not far away, one of which was a mysterious seed. At the first glance at it, Lin Yi knew what it was, the true solution of his own destiny. In the second green light, there was a lotus platform condensed by hand seals, and now 41 of them were lit up. His eyes swept over his illusory arms and body, and he immediately realized that this was his spiritual body. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 124. Facing the strange shadow that was quickly approaching him, Lin Yi's first reaction was to run away. But he didn't know how to control himself. It was the first time he entered the world of spiritual consciousness in the form of a spiritual body, and he was very uncomfortable with it. But time and danger would not wait for him, and a strange shadow appeared in front of him in a flash. As I write this, I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network Rightward Arrow. The shadow's arm grabbed him, its dark claws like a wraith. Lin Yi instinctively raised his hand to block this grab. Ah! The heartbreaking pain erupted and almost drove him crazy. Lin Yi was so painful that his whole body was shaking, and his eyes saw his arms. There were 3 wounds, and bits of inexplicable light floated out from them. At this time, the strange shadow continued to rush toward Lin Yi fiercely. This shadow has no face, only a gray-black illusory body, and its speed is astonishing. In a flash, he was in front of Lin Yi. At this time, Lin Yi didn't even know how to move. Lin Yi couldn't care less about the pain as he looked at the strange shadow heading straight towards his door. Both arms shot out and slapped the 2 3-clawed palms grabbed by the shadow. He chose the force discharging method. The collision just now made him understand that the shadow's hands were like sharp weapons. Now his body seemed unable to withstand this attack at all. And he didn't sense that there was any essence available for him to use. Bang! A collision sound that reached straight to the soul, but Lin Yi was not happy at all. His hands felt a sharp pain, and countless cracks appeared directly where they collided with the strange shadow's hands. It seems that he can't even touch it. As long as he touches the black shadow, he will be injured immediately. However, this blow was not fruitless, as the hands of the strange shadow were swatted away by him. He was keenly aware of this thing has the same power as me now. Although Lin Yi couldn't judge whether he had the concept of strength in his current state. But this gave him a glimmer of opportunity, a glimmer of a chance to survive. Lin Yi slapped his hands away, but the shadow did not retreat at all and still rushed towards him with inertia. It seemed like he wanted his whole body to hit Lin Yi. Thinking that he would be injured if he came into contact with the other party, Lin Yi shuddered. He couldn't imagine what would happen if he was hit. Without any hesitation, Lin Yi clenched his fists with both hands and blasted towards the shadow in front of him with desperate will. The 2 dragons went out to sea and pointed directly at Shadow's face and chest. In this space of spiritual consciousness, Lin Yi didn't know how to move. But now there is no need for him to move, the other party is coming to the door. Fight with all your strength to save your life. Without any surprise, Lin Yi's fists hit the shadow's face and chest. Bang! There was another collision that reached straight to the soul, accompanied by severe pain. It was a pain that seemed to tear apart the soul and heart. The first half of Lin Yi's hands had completely disappeared, turning into countless light spots that converged on the shadow's face and chest. This strange shadow was knocked upside down by Lin Yi's fists. Holding back the pain, Lin Yi looked at the flying shadow, which stopped dozens of meters away. A scene happened that shocked and angered Lin Yi. He almost sacrificed the scars on his fists, and the place where countless light spots gathered began to change rapidly. The light spots seemed to be absorbed by the other party and integrated into the body of this strange shadow. And this weird shadow seemed to get a little bigger, and there was no damage to the face or chest at all. Lin Yi's heart sank. Damn it, this guy can still absorb my power and grow stronger. What is it and what should I do now? A trace of panic arose in my heart involuntarily. This was the panic that there was nothing I could do and could only wait to die. Thinking of death, Lin Yi felt cold all over, and finally got his own house. Strong power, even stepping into the path of human immortality, wealth, strength, and freedom. Thinking that these countless good things might leave him, he suddenly couldn't suppress the fear in his heart. Don't panic, there must be a way, there must be a way. This should be a spiritual consciousness space. What powers do I have that I can use in the space of spiritual consciousness? Lin Yi's mind was running wildly, and he wanted to find a way to survive. At this time, the enlarged shadow shook its body and rushed towards Lin Yi again. This time the speed was faster, and he was in front of Lin Yi in almost the blink of an eye. At this critical moment of life and death, Lin Yi suddenly had a flash of inspiration and thought of something. He turned his head and looked at the two groups of green light floating in this space. There was a loud shout, "Come here!" Perhaps the roar containing his will to survive had an effect, and the two groups of green light trembled. It turned into two streams of light and rushed towards Lin Yi, reaching the extreme speed. At this time, the shadow had arrived in front of Lin Yi, and its two sharp claws were grabbing at Lin Yi's head. The shadow of death shrouded his soul, and it seemed that he would completely fall in the next moment. Hurry, faster! There was only this one thought in my heart that was shouting wildly. Just when the sharp claws reached an inch above Lin Yi's head, two green lights also arrived at the same time. A stream of green light rose from Lin Yi's feet, and a stream of blue light fell from above his head, wrapping Lin Yi in it at the critical moment. Bang! A spiritual collision sounded, and two black three-fingered claws stopped on Lin Yi's head. The 1-inch distance was like a natural barrier, and it could no longer be crossed. Lin Yi breathed a sigh of relief at this time, and the strange shadow outside seemed to be stunned when he saw the sudden appearance of the green light. Zzz. A strange sound sounded, and the part of the shadow that touched the green light seemed to be damaged. Its claws appeared countless black smoke under the green light, and the sharp claws were directly destroyed by nearly half. And these black smokes were quickly consumed under the cover of the green light, and an invisible force continued to flow into Lin Yi's body. An amazing thing happened, Lin Yi's hands reappeared, although very illusory. Lin Yi saw this scene, and his heart was immediately happy. The Yiling Jing depends on you to save my life again this time. The shadow was hurt, like a frightened beast, and instantly retreated several meters. Watching the other party walk on flat ground in this illusory and vast world of mind and consciousness where there is no place to stay, Lin Yi's face darkened, revealing a hint of sneer. Although I don't know what you are, I am not powerless to fight back now. He began to quickly find a way to adapt to this place, and the shadow seemed to be stimulated and stayed a few meters away to look at him. In just a few breaths, Lin Yi has discovered some secrets of this world. In this world, as long as he wants to move freely, he has no other abilities. For example, in the vernacular novels, in the spiritual world, there is no shadow at all. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 125. That is to say, we can only rely on the interpretation of true life formed by the foreign spiritual sutra and the Lotus Mudra. At this time, Lin Yi stood on the lotus handprint. A green light rose from the 99 and 81 handprints, covering him from bottom to top. On top of his head was a mysterious cyan seal structure material, with streaks of cyan light falling down, forming a second layer of protection. Staring at the mysterious shadow monster in the distance, Lin Yi had a hint of madness in his eyes and a hint of coldness at the corner of his mouth. It's my turn now. Lin Yi's plan was simple, just bump into him. With a thought, he began to move together with the lotus handprint and the blue divine seal formed by the foreign spiritual sutra. Writing this, I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network rightward arrow. It turned into a ray of green light and rushed towards the gray-black shadow. When he moved, he stimulated the strange shadow. It was motionless at first, but it trembled momentarily, and then suddenly rushed towards Lin Yi. Head to head, there is no fear of Lin Yi and Xuanhuan. When encountering each other on a narrow road, the brave will win. Lin Yi has the Sutra of Strange Spirits to naturally have no fear. The grey-black shadow stretched out its claws, grabbing at the oncoming Lin Yi with a terrifying black light. Like the thunder from the sky stirring up the fire on the earth, blue and grey collided together. Boom! A loud noise exploded at the spiritual level. A circle of strange ripples spread out from the center of the impact point. These were ripples mixed with black and cyan light, causing this mysterious space of mind and consciousness to waver. At the center of the explosion, the grey-black shadow's claws had completely disappeared, and countless black smoke continued to float out from the broken claws. Lin Yi was unscathed, and the power of the Foreign Spirit Sutra firmly protected him within it. Even the countless black smoke leaking from the grey-black shadow was forcibly sucked into the light of the alien Spirit Sutra. Finally, it turned into an inexplicable force and was injected into Lin Yi's spirit. His body, which seemed to be composed of spiritual consciousness, was quickly and completely repaired by the injection of this mysterious power. It even became a little more solid. But something went wrong where Xuanhuan was. Puff. As soon as his eyes opened, Xuanhuan's mouth was bleeding. His face was full of disbelief. How is it possible? To condense the human immortality, you can't relax your mind at all times. How could he have the energy to fight against the soul-destroying curse ghost? No, he must be cursed to death, otherwise I will be damaged and my path will be hindered by the backlash. Xuanhuan's handsome face was no longer relaxed at all, his whole body was tense, and the seal in his hand changed. Blessed by blood and energy, curse ghosts and destroy souls, go. A mouthful of blood spurted out, and a surge of energy in the seal in his hand instantly turned into an invisible force, sucking the blood in the air. In the next moment, the two merged and turned into a mysterious spell that descended into Lin Yi's spiritual world out of thin air. This power turned into blood in the spiritual world and was injected into the grey-black shadow body. Then an astonishing scene happened. Bloody light rose up around the shadow, and then a face appeared. This face was very blurry, but his eyes were bright and clear, and it was Xuanhuan who had a ray of thought coming to him. Lin Yi was shocked when he saw this scene. No, this shadow is conscious. Someone is specifically targeting me. What kind of method? It happens to be when I am condensing the spiritual pool. I felt a chill in my heart, it meant that someone was in the prison cell. In the rising blood, Xuanhuan looked at Lin Yi, and then showed a hint of surprise. So that's it? This man has extraordinary skills in cultivation, and he can actually make his thoughts reflect in his soul. No wonder it can block my curse. In this case, I can't let you go. Having said this, Xuanhuan made a series of seals in his hand without waiting for Lin Yi to react. The power of the cursed ghost was under his control and concentrated on the seal of his right hand. The seal bloomed with a black and red blood light, turned into a sharp arrow, and shot towards Lin Yi. The speed was astonishing, and he instantly hit the green light outside Lin Yi's body. Boom! There was a muffled sound, and Lin Yi was shocked. He saw that the green light outside his body actually wavered and wasted under the blow. The green light trembled, and there seemed to be signs of breaking, but the black sharp arrow had shattered in the impact and turned into a shock. Hey, this technique is quite powerful. It can actually block the soul-killing arrows condensed by the power of the cursed ghost. Haha, let's see how long you can block it. The curse mark is immortal and the curse power is endless. Xuanhuan made a soul-killing arrow with each of his left and right hands, turned into two black streams of light, and rushed towards Lin Yi. Lin Yi didn't know if his Foreign Spirit Sutra could always block attacks. Not daring to resist any more, with a thought, a flash of green light left the place. Under the protection of the Foreign Spiritual Sutra, his speed was astonishing, and he opened the distance in an instant. But the two soul-killing arrows seemed to be staring at him. No matter how he flew, they were firmly locked on him, and their speed was getting faster and faster. Seeing this situation, Lin Yi felt a sense of horror in his heart, and his heart moved. The shadow didn't have a will at first. It was only after being traumatized by the impact that it had a will. This weird black arrow was the product of his summoning after forming a seal. Can I form a seal? Thinking of this, Lin Yi immediately began to try, starting with the demon-subduing seal in the powerful Vajra seal. This seal was originally used to subdue all kinds of resentful spirits, and it was a spiritual attack method. Originally, it was only in the human immortal way that it could exert its true power. At this time, in this spiritual space, it bloomed with terrifying power in another form. A green seal enveloped Lin Yi's right hand, and a trace of joy appeared in his eyes. It works, now I'm saved. With the means of attack and the method of movement, why should I be afraid of you? With a cruel sneer on his lips, Lin Yi turned around and faced the two black arrows galloping from behind. He pinched the demon-subduing seal with both hands at the same time, and two green seals rose from his hands. Like two cannonballs, he blasted towards the two arrows. The two forces collided and exploded on the spot. The huge impact spread to the surroundings, and at this time Lin Yi had turned into a green light and rushed towards the shadow possessed by Xingyue's mind. The speed was amazing, 100 meters in the blink of an eye, and he quickly approached Xingyue. Facing the murderous Lin Yi, Xingyue's eyes narrowed slightly. What is this? Bald donkey's kung fu. Damn it, how could he know the great power Vajra seal? Xingyue knew he was in trouble immediately. This skill is very famous and is the orthodox skill of the Buddha demon Vajra system. The highest level is said to reach the level of the four great Vajra, the method of subduing demons by the angry Vajra. With a serious expression, he knew that he had to give it his all. This skill has the ability to restrain curse ghosts. He formed seals with his hands and muttered something. The next moment, his eyes narrowed. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 126. 3 Yin Curse Ghost, Soul-Destroying Demon Knife. The body and shadow turned into a black and red demon knife in an instant. This demon knife is only about 1 foot long, and it is painted with patterns of countless demons wreaking havoc on the world. I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network rightward arrow. The knife flashed and chopped towards Lin Yi. Obviously, Xingyue noticed something was wrong, so he went all out and left no room for retreat. Striving to kill Lin Yi with one blow, this man's determination is terrifying. Lin Yi also saw the mysterious black shadow turned into a small knife and chopped him, and a shudder rose in his heart. An instinctive premonition that he would die if he couldn't stop it. The black knife came quickly, and Lin Yi, who was flying away, froze. With his hands forming seals, 2 demon-subduing seals flew out, like 2 cannonballs, smashing towards the oncoming knife. As Lin Yi formed seals, he could feel the spiritual power of the Yiling Jing being consumed. The green light surrounding his body dimmed. In the distance, 2 large seals and the black and red knife collided with each other, bursting with intense light. Bang! Bang! 2 muffled sounds were heard in succession, and the 2 green seals were shattered by the black and red knife. The knife light passed through the 2 exploded seals and chopped towards Lin Yi. A chill rose in Lin Yi's heart. The knife transformed by the shadow was too terrifying, and a feeling of certain death enveloped him. The knife light was so fast that there was almost no time to hesitate. Lin Yi formed a seal with his right hand, and the next moment, all the light of the Yiling Jing was injected into it. It was as if a green sun lit up in this spiritual space. A ball of green light blasted towards the black and red knife. When a sound like metal collision exploded, black, red and blue light rose. A terrifying impact hit Lin Yi, causing him to feel severe pain all over his body. Countless cracks appeared on his body, and his hands and feet disintegrated in an instant, leaving only his body and head. Boundless pain swept through his mind, causing him to faint directly. Black, bloody, and blue light entangled in this spiritual space. At this moment, an infinite golden light bloomed from the danshan of Lin Yi's body. The infinite purification characteristics of this golden light seemed to be able to eliminate all evil demons. The black and red light made a sizzling sound under the golden light. The blue light suddenly increased, drowning the infinite black and blood light. Ah! A violent scream sounded in the black and red light, and then stopped abruptly. Puff! A large mouthful of blood spurted out, and Xingyuez's face was pale. What's going on? Even with the 3 yin curse ghosts and my blood and qi, even a ray of thought can't kill him. Impossible. Boom. A flash of thunder roared, and the whole sky was shrouded in lightning and thunder. Crackling. Boom. A blue lightning fell down and struck the altar in front of Xingyueze. The altar exploded directly, and Xingyuez's face changed drastically, and he was shrouded in a yin aura. It turned into a crystal-like shield in front of him. Countless fragments of the explosion exploded, hitting this big shield like bullets. Bang bang bang. The collision sounded, and the crystal shield was submerged by infinite lightning. At this time, Xingyuez's face turned pale again. The backlash of the spell was unusual, and he was seriously injured at this time. A strong breath rose in the distance and was coming here quickly. Not good, the backlash of the spell caused changes in the sky, and someone noticed it. Thinking of this, a yellow talisman paper appeared in his hand, and a stream of essence was injected. A mysterious force surged out, enveloping Xingyueze. The next moment, he was like a piece of illusory smoke, drilling into the ground and disappearing here. Less than a minute after he left, a mysterious Taoist wrapped in purple light landed in the yard. This man was about 50 years old, with a jade-like face, a goatee, a pair of flying phoenix eyebrows, and 2 purple lights flashing in his eyes. Seeing the broken altar, his face changed. Spell altar, who is casting a spell here? A purple bagua mirror appeared in the hand of the visitor, and a purple air flashed in his right hand, and a talisman was drawn on the mirror. The next moment, the mirror shone into the courtyard, and countless pictures flashed in it. Various residual auras appeared in the mirror without hiding. Soon he locked onto a black aura that disappeared underground. This is the Taoist method, escaping underground. As if thinking of something, his face was uncertain. Is the legend true? They just hid it? Not to mention the changes here, in Lin Yi's bedroom in the Wanchaiwu. At this time, he was like a golden crystal, and a hazy golden light bloomed at the position of danshan, penetrating his entire body. It illuminated him inside and out, and a trace of inexplicable black air evaporated from all parts of his body. At this time, there was an inexplicable mysterious space at the position of his eyebrows, blooming with countless green lights. The black and red light was completely consumed in the green light. Between the divine seal formed by the true destiny and the second set of hand seal lotus, Lin Yi only had a head protected inside. A wisp of inexplicable power slowly flowed into this head from all around. A trace of illusory body began to appear from under the head. Time passed by minute, and Lin Yi's body quickly became solid from illusory. I don't know how long it took, but it finally seemed like a real body. And Lin Yi slowly woke up at this time. I'm not dead. The surroundings were still gray, and the mark of the Yiling Jing and the lotus lighted up again. I'm not dead, I'm really lucky. He was scared for a while, and at this time, the sky and the earth twisted, and Lin Yi's consciousness shook, and he felt the existence of his body again. The vigorous energy in his body was 50% stronger than before. At the same time, he felt that his spirit was very strong, which was different from the past. It seemed to be a kind of vigorous spirit. What's going on? The effect of the condensed spirit pool. Lin Yi didn't understand, in fact, he didn't know. This is the result of the blood of the curse ghost and Xuanhuan and a wisp of thought being purified by the power of the Yiling Jing in the spiritual world. The curse ghost itself is a mysterious Taoist phenomenon, and it can even be said that it contains the essence of a certain aspect of heaven and earth. It is a series of spiritual spells performed by Xuanhuan using the 3 yin soul-destroying curse. This method is very vicious. It requires the heart of a woman born in an unlucky year, month, and time, the head of a wrongly killed person and the soul of a wronged person as sacrifices to mix cinnabar in order to perform this spell. By using this sacrifice, one can communicate with a mysterious power between heaven and earth and turn the sacrifice into a cursed ghost. This cursed ghost is almost invincible as long as it invades the spiritual space of the cursed person. It can easily devour and destroy the spiritual consciousness of the cursed person, and eventually the cursed person will collapse and die. Lin Yi was able to survive because the spiritual waves of the Yiling Jing were very restrained against all these weird and evil forces. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 127. Add the blood of Xuanhuan and the spiritual substance contained in a wisp of thought. After being purified, Lin Yi's essential spiritual strength was greatly increased. This is an opportunity that cannot be replicated. Lin Yi thought about it, what happened in the spiritual world just now? Is there any way to attack in the spiritual world? This is no longer explained by martial arts, it is completely Taoism and immortality. Thinking of this, Lin Yi suddenly felt that the cultivation system in this world seemed different from what he thought. It's not just martial arts, there are also various mysterious Taoism. Even the magic power that Sakuramiya surely used in the sewer last time was not as magical as this time. Maybe I can investigate the Taoism aspect. How powerful is the power of Taoism, and how many types are there? Many thoughts flashed through his mind, and Lin Yi shook his head and threw these thoughts aside. His eyes flashed with green light, and he began to observe the current changes in his body. At this time, there was an organ in Danshan that existed and did not exist, the mysterious spirit pool. It is perfectly round, and its internal size can be seen by looking inside. A huge spherical space of 9 feet 9 inches, in the center of this space, a ball of golden essence hovered there. At this time, his essence only occupied 1/5 of this space, and it was not easy to fill it up. Finally, I have entered the human immortal path, and I am considered a real strong man. Lin Yi has encountered a lot during this period. In summary, he often relied on his summons. Otherwise, he would have died in several conflicts. Until this moment, he had the confidence to fight against those human immortal threats. Oh oh oh! There was a loud crowing of chickens outside. In this Honglian city, some families with small courtyards still like to raise poultry themselves. Listening to the crowing of chickens, Lin Yi stretched his waist, this night is really long. Turning over, Lin Yi came to the kitchen and started to make his own breakfast. The rising sun, through the glass of the floor-to-ceiling window, the sun shone on him, making Lin Yi warm. What a refreshing morning, peaceful and beautiful. Handing a cup of fragrant coffee, the rich bitter taste echoed in his mouth. Dong dong dong. Footsteps sounded on the stairs, and a figure appeared at the entrance of the corridor. Manager, you got up so early today. Brandy came to the hall and saw Lin Yi at a glance, with a hint of surprise in his eyes. Looked at the time, it's only 7 o'clock now. Usually, Lin Yi would not get up until 8 o'clock. Getting up early today, nothing to be surprised about, Lin Yi glanced at Brandy. But Brandy seemed to have thought of something, looking at Lin Yi with a smirk on his face. I understand, I just can't sleep, he. Looking at Brandy with a smirk on his face, Lin Yi's mouth twitched, are you itching for a fight? Go and do your homework. Looking at Lin Yi, who was about to get up, Brandy rushed into the backyard in a hurry. Manager, don't come. I'm going to practice. Looking at Brandy, who ran faster than a rabbit, Lin Yi turned around and opened the newspaper. Then he frowned, and saw a few big words on the front page. A terrifying corpse dumping site was found in the pond behind Honglian Gynecological Hospital. When Lin Yi saw this title, he immediately thought of the problematic pond he had pointed out to Li Changhe. It seems to be here, a corpse dumping site? What's going on? After carefully reading the content of the newspaper, Lin Yi was a little surprised. According to the newspaper, thousands of skeletons were dug out here. There are adults and babies, and 80% of them are unborn babies. According to the identification of the forensic personnel at the scene, these skeletons have a history of more than 50 years. According to the reporter's research, 50 years ago, this seemed to be a brothel. At that time, the Honglian Empire had not completely abolished the existence of brothels. Seeing this, Lin Yi was thoughtful. So that's it? Are they all the unborn children of those miserable women in brothels in the past? The brothels in this world are the lowest commercial places. In the previous dynasty, those were places where coolies and laborers would go, while nobles would go to brothels. The old crows in the brothels are basically inhumane, and women are just their animals there. They control them, squeeze out all their value, and don't even take too many safety measures for them. Once they get pregnant, they will be given abortion pills, and after a few times, these women will lose their fertility. They will become more perfect goods, and there will be no need to worry about them getting pregnant again, thus delaying the old crows from making money. Seeing the description of the brothel in the newspaper, Lin Yi showed a trace of sympathy in his eyes. It's so pitiful and sad, it really fulfills the words of the ancient sages. When a country prospers, the people suffer, when a country perishes, the people suffer. Since ancient times, people in the lowest class of industries have lived like animals, without any dignity. So the real culprit of this serial murder case is one of these babies. Has it gained strange powers and become a strange existence? At this time, Lin Yi thought of the dead, all of whom had their uteruses broken open, and it seemed that something had stayed inside. For some reason, a picture flashed through his mind. No way, this is too scary, is it, to find the warmth in the mother's body? Just thinking of this picture, Lin Yi can feel the horror of this strange thing. I really don't know what it will look like. Lin Yi shook his head and continued to watch other news. Li Changhe took over this matter, and naturally he would notice the connection and problems. No matter what the final result is, it has nothing to do with Lin Yi, unless they are willing to pay Lin Yi to solve it. After all, he is a businessman. Money can make the devil push the mill, and money can also make the mill push the devil. Ring ring ring. A mobile phone ring sounded, and Lin Yi raised his eyebrows. Someone called him early in the morning, which is really strange. Looking at the caller ID, Lin Yi raised his eyebrows. Hey, it's Lao Wei. Lao Wei. In the past, Lin Yi would buy some news from him many times. He is a famous figure in the wind media of Honglian City, and he has his own team under him. After answering the phone, Lao Wei. What's the matter? Why are you calling me so early? I'm in big trouble and need your help. Lin Yi thought for a while. That's fine, but my rule is to get paid for the work. Tell me first, what's the matter? The price will be different depending on the size of the matter. Don't worry, I know your rules. Come to my place and I'll tell you in detail when we meet. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 128. Better bring all your guys. Lin Yi's face condensed slightly when he heard this. Looking at you, it looks like you're in a lot of trouble, and it's very urgent. Yes, so come quickly. After hanging up the phone, Lin Yi frowned. Old Wei had provided him with a lot of information. The two of them worked well together, and he would still take a look at this matter when they came to visit him this time. If he can help, he will help. If he can't help, he won't force it. Back in the bedroom, Lin Yi put on his equipment neatly. A pair of metal gloves, a tactical suit, and an alloy knife. They were covered with a jacket, jeans, and gloves. Nothing could be seen. He looked left and right in the mirror, straightened his hair, and looked left and right. I'm quite handsome. Dressed neatly, Lin Yi walked out of the everything room and told Brandy, I'll go out and take a look for myself. Be careful on the road, manager, Brandy waved. There is a black car outside. A big man in a jacket came out of the passenger seat and opened the door for Lin Yi. Mr. Lin, please. Old Wei's people. Yes, Mr. Lin, the boss sent me to pick you up. Lin Yi got into the car, and the big man quickly returned to the passenger seat and said to the driver, drive. Woo woo. The sound of the engine sounded, and the car quickly drove onto the road. What's your name? Lin Yi asked. My name is Fang Kai, and I'm the boss's subordinate responsible for security, Fang Kai said with respect on his face. Fang Kai, do you know what happened? This, the boss told me not to say anything. He will tell you personally. Lin Yi frowned when he heard this. Mysterious, this guy Old Wei has bad professional habits. The car quickly headed towards Baikan district, which is the famous slum of Honglian city, where 3 religions and 9 streams gather. Soon, the car arrived at Fuxing Street, the busiest street in the north of the city. The car entered a courtyard with 3 small buildings on Fuxing Street. There was a ground parking garage here. Entering the garage, a man was already waiting for them. Lin Yi pushed the door open and got out of the car. He looked at this man and smiled, Old Wei, I haven't seen you for a long time. Why did you come out to wait for me in person? That flatters me. There was a hint of surprise in Lin Yi's eyes. It was obvious that Old Wei was in trouble this time. Lao Wei is a middle-aged man who looks to be in his 40s. He has a strong build and obviously pays great attention to exercise. The shoulders are bulging high and the muscles are well developed. He is not a figure who can be manipulated by others. The waist was bulging, and it looked like there were firearms inside. Wearing a black suit, very formal, with a hint of gloom on his resolute face. Apparently he was in some kind of trouble. Old Wei looked at Lin Yi with a smile on his face. Mr. Lin, please come this way. They entered the 3-story building from the garage stairs, and were led by Old Wei to the lobby. Please sit down, Lao Wei said, pointing to the leather sofa in the living room. Lin Yi glanced at Old Wei's house. This was his first time here, and he often went to Old Wei's office before. Exquisite furniture, classical style decoration, and a fireplace are luxurious yet understated. What to drink? Old Wei looked at Lin Yi and asked. Water will do. The waiting maid quickly left and was ready to go. At this time, Lin Yi looked at Old Wei. What happened to you? You called me here in such a hurry. Lin Yi knew Lao Wei because he encountered a resentful spirit incident in the past. Because of something at work, someone died and turned into a wraith to seek revenge on Wei. In the end, Lin Yi took action to deal with the resentful spirit, and Old Wei survived. The two also formed a friendship from then on. As the leader of the media, Old Wei naturally had a lot of information and helped Lin Yi a lot. Although it was a fair deal between them, it was a pleasure to work together. This time Lao Wei encountered a problem and immediately approached Lin Yi. Old Wei smiled bitterly. This time it's a big trouble again, so I can only come to you to see if we can solve it. Lin Yi became interested when he heard this. What trouble? What kind of resentful spirit have you provoked? Old Wei sighed deeply, with sadness on his face. It's not me, it's my son, Wei tomorrow. Your son? Lin Yi was stunned for a moment. He had never met Lao Wei's son Wei Mingming in real life. But I saw the other party's photo in Lao Wei's office. It was placed on Lao Wei's desk, a little kid of 7 or 8 years old. Your son? What trouble could he get into? Old Wei sighed, he was fine last night. But something happened when I went home early this morning and went to his room to see how he was sleeping. He frowned, what's going on? Old Wei shook his head and said, you can find out just by following me to his room. Lin Yi nodded, okay. The three of them arrived at a room on the second floor. The door was pure white, with a very cute little rabbit door sign hanging on it. Old Wei opened the door, and inside was a pure white warm room with many plush dolls and various toys. The family-style train is placed on the ground and is worth a lot of money. It is something that ordinary people cannot afford with a few months' salary. Everything in the room is very exquisite and valuable. Lin Yi looked at it, looked at Old Wei and said, Old Wei, you are so kind to your son. I'm afraid the total amount here is hundreds of thousands. Old Wei sighed, I only have this one son, and I work hard for him. Lin Yi and Old Wei came to the bedside, and Fang Kai stood guard outside the door. On the exquisite wooden bed, there lay a child of 7 or 8 years old, whose face was somewhat similar to Old Wei. The child was chubby and looked very smart. But at this time, he was completely asleep, his breathing was very weak, almost inaudible, as if he was dead. You can tell at a glance that there is a problem. This morning, it was like this, unconscious. I have asked a private doctor to see him, and according to her, there is no pathological feature at all. And I found something, so I feel that this matter may be related to the strange incident. Strange incident, Lin Yi immediately became interested, that was something that could be absorbed by the Yiling Jing. What did you find? I found a strange little shrine in Tianation's toy room. I asked the nanny who bought the toys, and there was no such thing in the toy room originally. Toy room, Lin Yi's eyes were now focused on the corner of the room. There was a small toy house about 5 meters high and 5 meters wide, and only children could play in it. Seeing the toy house, Lin Yi frowned and walked over. Lao Wei also came over and reached out to move the top of the toy room. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 129. Inside is a small home, with a small bed, a small desk, a small fireplace, etc. It is a completely dreamy little room. But above the fireplace, there is a small shrine. This shrine is very strange. It is not dedicated to gods, but a small red door. Red door, Lin Yi thought of something instantly, strange fantasy. A green light flashed in his eyes, and he looked at the shrine again. The result surprised him a little. There was nothing. There was no power fluctuation on the shrine. Lin Yi frowned, is there any problem? At this time, only Lao Wei said, I found a very small note in the incense burner on this red shrine. Lin Yi was attracted by Lao Wei's words, note? What's written on it? Lao Wei took out a note from his arms and handed it to Lin Yi. Lin Yi's eyes flashed with green light, and then frowned. There are various auras and weak fluctuations on this note. Some are from Lao Wei and some are from Wei Mingtian. There are some strange black patterns around this note. There were 3 rows of words written on the note, 2 of which he recognized. I want a friend. Proportionality 3 infinity. Okay. He could recognize the first and third rows of the 3 rows of words. But he didn't recognize the second row at all. What is this? Do you recognize it? He looked at Lao Wei, who smiled bitterly, I don't know what this text is either. After I found the problem, I found the note in the incense burner in the shrine while checking the room. The first and third rows are all my son's handwriting. Hearing this, Lin Yi showed a trace of deep doubt in his eyes. Looking at the note in his hand, your son seems to have contact with some unknown existence. He wants a friend? Doesn't he have any friends? Looking at Lin Yi's eyes, Lao Wei sighed deeply, and his face became much more haggard. My line of work is risky and easy to offend people. Basically, Xiao Tian stays at home except for school and has no chance to go out. Even if he goes out to school, there will be security guards protecting him 24 hours a day. He really has no friends. For his safety, there is no way to solve this problem? Looking at the tired old Wei, Lin Yi nodded. This Wei Mingtian has been enjoying all kinds of happiness that ordinary children will never enjoy since he was born. There will naturally be corresponding costs, such as never having real friends. Seeing the happiness of other friends in groups of 3 or 5 at school. Because he is protected by bodyguards, those classmates dare not approach him. In a flash, Wei Mingtian's situation has been basically outlined. So your son has established a connection with a certain existence because of loneliness. Through this note, there is also a shrine that suddenly appeared. Old Wei nodded. It should be roughly like this. I basically haven't touched this thing, and it's kept as it is. You are an expert, you can see what's going on. Lin Yi nodded, with a trace of solemnity in his eyes, and carefully looked at the shrine and the note in his hand. First, we need to figure out what the second sentence says. Your son should have agreed to something with this unknown existence, and then his consciousness disappeared. Or, his consciousness went to the territory of this unknown existence. Hearing Lin Yi's analysis, Lao Wei's face suddenly became a little nervous. What should I do, Mr. Lin? You must help me, I only have this one son. Looking at Lao Wei's nervous face, Lin Yi waved his hand. I can only help you first, after all, it involves an unknown existence. I can't guarantee whether I can save your son. Lao Wei took a deep breath. As long as you can save my son, I have a reward that is absolutely valuable for you. Wait a moment. With that, Lao Wei left Wei Mingtian's room, dong dong dong, and went upstairs. Lin Yi glanced at the departing Lao Wei, his eyes fell on the patterns around the note. A flash of green light appeared in his eyes, capturing a faint strange power. So that's it? Is the pattern on this note made of strange power? At this time, the true destiny solution was running to the extreme, and Lin Yi carefully observed all the traces on the note. All the tiny traces on the note began to gradually reveal themselves. First of all, the note itself, an ordinary note paper, without any special power or traces. Secondly, the pattern on it is a substantial product condensed by strange power. The strange power condensed by this pattern is very special, and can exist on the note like ink. Third, there are 4 breaths wrapped around the note, which are the breaths left after being contaminated by creatures. One is Lin Yi's own, flashing a light gold, and one is Lao Wei, an ordinary light red. There is also a faint light red breath, which comes from Wei Mingtian. The last one caught Lin Yi's attention. It was a dark green breath, with a pure evil and a hint of bewitching power. What is this? The breath left by the unknown creature. Lin Yi's heart moved. He could see that the source of this breath was constantly emanating from the second row of handwriting. The true destiny solution was raised again, the evil aura was constantly amplified, and Lin Yi was watching its essence. He was trying to judge the opponent's power level. The remaining breath in this breath was enough for him to see a trace of the opponent's footsteps. Soon Lin Yi saw the root of this breath, a breath that was not much different from his. The breath of the human immortal level is not too powerful and mysterious. That's good, there is a chance. With confidence in his heart, Lin Yi breathed a sigh of relief. If this matter involves a more powerful existence, he will give up immediately. No matter how much friendship he has with Lao Wei, he will not intervene. Although he likes money, he must have a life to spend it. At this time, Lao Wei came to the door of the room with a palm-sized box in his hand. He came to Lin Yi and went straight to the point. This is a treasure I got by chance. Legend has it that it is used by the powerful cultivators of the human immortal level. As long as you can save my son, this thing is yours. As he said, Lao Wei opened the wooden box, and a black jade seal only the size of a thumb appeared in Lin Yi's eyes. Lin Yi looked at the jade seal, paused for a moment, and a flash of true destiny in his eyes, seeing it clearly. This thing contains great power, and dense mysterious runes. Even the jade material contains mysterious energy, at least comparable to the strongest person he has ever met, Honglian Moro. It must be said that Lin Yi was moved when he saw this thing. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 130. What is this? Lin Yi looked at Lao Wei. I don't know what it is exactly, I just know that its value is enough to persuade any immortal master to do things for me. Looking at Lao Wei's eyes, Lin Yi closed the wooden box and looked at the shrine. I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network rightward arrow. The biggest problem in this room. There is a strange power on the note, so there must be something wrong with this shrine. Thinking of this, Lin Yi stretched out his hand and grabbed the shrine. The shrine is about 30 centimeters high, and there is a small red door less than 10 centimeters in it. In front of the small door is an incense burner, which is empty. The weirdest thing about this shrine is that it is blood red all over, which gives people a very weird feeling. After touching the shrine, Lin Yi's fingers bloomed with endless green light. The green light instantly enveloped the shrine completely, exploring its depths. A terrifying and strange force erupted from it, competing with the power of Lin Yi's Yiling Jing. The two forces confronted each other, Lin Yi's face sank, and the spiritual waves of his whole body surged, running to the extreme. A deep and strange force permeated from the shrine, resisting the erosion from the spiritual waves. But Lin Yi's Yiling Jing was too powerful, and this strange force gradually lost and was quickly suppressed. In the end, the spiritual waves completely enveloped the shrine and rushed into its core. An indescribable information flowed into Lin Yi's mind, making him stunned for a moment, looking at the shrine in his hand with some surprise. This thing, incredible, his eyes were full of shock. After thinking about it, he looked at Lao Wei. Your son's disappearance is indeed related to this thing, but I have to think about what to do to find your son. Lin Yi picked up the note, looked at the 3 sentences on it, and fell into thought. Old Wei was delighted when he heard that Lin Yi had determined the reason for his son's disappearance. He checked all the surveillance this morning and found no problems, so he was extremely anxious. Although he felt that his son was probably involved in some strange incident. But his power was useless and he could not determine what was going on. Now that he had seen the light from Lin Yi, his joy in his heart could be imagined. But he did not speak, quietly waiting for Lin Yi to finish thinking, afraid of disrupting Lin Yi's train of thought. Lin Yi's eyes kept scanning the 3 sentences. I want a friend. Proportionality 3 infinity. Okay. Thoughts flashed through his mind. Wei Mingtian has no friends, so he wants a friend. If the information from the shrine is true, then this note is the only way to find him. But how can I find him through this note? The strange existence on the opposite side wrote the sentence, maybe it is a promise to be a friend of Wei Mingtian. Wei Mingtian also promised it? Or maybe it invited Wei Mingtian to go to it, and then Wei Mingtian agreed. But no matter what the other side said, Wei Mingtian agreed. In other words, a contract was reached. If so, maybe we can do it this way. Thinking of this, Lin Yi looked at Lao Wei. Lao Wei, I have an idea in my mind, but I need someone to do the experiment. The result of this experiment may be very dangerous. If it goes wrong, you may even die. Lao Wei's face changed, and he took a deep breath. What do you want to do? What do you need me to do? There was a hint of ruthlessness in his eyes. Lao Wei was not a soft-hearted person. To be able to become the head of Fengmei in Honglian City, he naturally had some means. What I want is very simple. I need someone to write a word on this piece of paper. Okay. Old Wei was stunned when he heard this, and then immediately understood what Lin Yi meant. You want to see what happened? Lin Yi nodded, yes, so I need someone to do the experiment. I need to use this person's results to judge whether my idea is feasible and dangerous. Old Wei nodded, okay, I understand, what kind of person is needed? Lin Yi thought about it, this matter is dangerous. If it's your person, I'm afraid it's not suitable. Do you have a villain who owes you money and has a bad character, and it's not a pity to die? It's better if there are no other relatives, so as to avoid trouble when they die. Hearing this, a creepy sneer appeared on the corner of Old Wei's mouth. There are many such people. Don't worry, I will find someone for you within an hour. Lin Yi nodded, okay, I can start the experiment when you find someone. Then Mr. Lin, you can rest in the living room for a while, I will find someone. I will take this shrine first, so as not to lose it. After all, it comes from an unknown place, maybe there is a black hand behind it. No problem, you decide. The two walked out of Wei Mingtian's room, and Fang Kai respectfully made way outside. Back to the living room on the first floor, Old Wei looked at Fang Kai, come with me to find someone. Xiao, take good care of Mr. Lin, and do everything he needs. The maid Xiao nodded quickly, yes, Mr. Wei. Lin Yi was sitting on the sofa at this time, and the shrine was also placed on the coffee table. In his mind, he began to sort out the information he got from the shrine. This information was magical, and he almost didn't believe it. Because this shrine can make a contract with any unknown creature through paper and text. After the contract is completed, the content of the contract can be obtained, but it is limited to intangible things. According to the content of the contract, he can even go to other unknown places through the power of the shrine. Wish Shrine? This name is really strange, and there are so many strange things. Lin Yi was very surprised at the existence of this wish shrine, and he had no idea how it was formed. If it is true that intangible things can be obtained through contracts, then can power, life, and memory be obtained through contracts? Lin Yi's eyes showed countless thoughts. If it is true, there will be a lot of operability. Especially life, if it can really be obtained through contracts. Lin Yi seems to see the hope of immortality. Immortality is the dream of countless people. Don't you see that since ancient times, countless kings have been demanding immortality? In order to avoid death, Hongli and Moro even refined the inhumane thing called 100-life corpse immortal formation. The first emperor of China, the greatest emperor in the history of the world, sent Su Fu to take 3,000 boys and girls to the sea to seek immortality. Throughout the dynasties, countless emperors have cultivated immortality and even taken various elixirs, and there are not a few who have killed themselves. Thinking of this, Lin Yi's heart trembled, and it took him a long time to calm down his excitement.